Some systems hold together precisely because they never stay in one place. Some words survive because they refer to something other than what we think. At the precise moment when Jonas, a digital cartographer, zooms in on Holy Roman Empire, the map breaks apart. Borders blink, disappear, reappear. Nothing holds. Nothing. Jonas has given himself a simple mission: produce one clear map of the empire for an educational app. His boss wants sharp contours, clean colors, and easy before-after to understand. So Jonas opens atlases, academic PDFs, interactive maps. He overlays, calibrates, fixes the scales. But the more he refines, the more a brutal question catches up with him. What exactly am I supposed to draw? Doubt settles in. The first bug appears when he tries to freeze a precise date, 1155. Frederick Barbarossa has just been crowned emperor in Rome, theoretically the peak of imperial power. Jonas draws a wide outline, encompassing Germany, northern Italy, Burgundy. Then he comes across another map for the same year. The empire there is reduced to scattered patches, duchies, bishoprics, free cities, enclaves. Between these patches, almost empty zones, legally blurry. Same word, same holy empire, two images that don't look alike. Jonas zooms in on Italy. Where he saw a solid red block, he finds only a thread of rights, contested everywhere. The contrast follows him. Jonas reassures himself as best he can. He tells himself the problem might lie with modern historians, with representational choices. Hypothesis A, the most comfortable: the empire would be a classic state, but badly mapped. A Germanic core, an Italian appendage, a Burgundian margin, all run from an implicit capital like Aachen or Prague. It would be enough to choose a good scale, to smooth out the rough edges, to ignore a few local anomalies. A kind of big kingdom that does not call itself one, but that basically works like the others. This illusion crashes into a dry sentence Jonas reads in an article on imperial charters. The empire never had a fixed capital. Its king travels constantly. His power exists mostly where he is physically present. The silence of his office weighs a bit more. Hypothesis B, more subtle, more attractive for a cartographer. The empire would be above all a legal space. Territorial unity doesn't matter. What counts is an invisible web of rights, vassalage ties, privileges. Jonas starts overlaying layers. Regnum Teutonicum, Regnum Italiae, Regnum Burgundiae. Then the secular principalities, the ecclesiastical principalities, the margraviates, the free cities. He adds the imperial circles, much later, then the powers of the Diet, the Reichskammergericht, the Reichshofrat. The map does not yield a shape, it yields a cloud. The empire is no longer a block, it is a system of interlockings. Then Jonas comes across a 16th century document that overturns this hypothesis. The same princes who brandish imperial law in Regensburg act as quasi-independent sovereigns at home, sign foreign treaties, raise armies, impose their confession without asking the emperor's opinion. The contradiction thickens. Hypothesis C, finally, and Jonas does not like what it implies. What if the problem were not complexity in itself, but the word empire itself? Perhaps Holy Roman Empire serves as a screen, a prestigious label that hides something else, a structure designed precisely to prevent a single map, a single center, a single power from imposing itself. Jonas looks at the chain of coronations, from Verdun to Worms, from Bologna to Westphalia, and the thought disturbs him. The word empire might well describe above all a permanent struggle against what we today call a state. He notes the crack in his own vocabulary. Jonas decides to do what his software hates. He stops looking for contours. He follows movements, those of a man who has no fixed office. At first, he sticks to Otto I. He follows him from Aachen to Magdeburg, from Quedlinburg to Regensburg, all the way to Rome. The traces are in the charters. Here, a market granted to an abbey. There, a toll right given to a bishop. Further on, a privilege confirmed for a duke. Power looks like a permanent tour. Not a continuous territory, but a succession of punctual presences. The dots on the map look like isolated pricks. Jonas's software displays a timeline. He pins a visual marker when Otto receives the imperial crown in Rome, when Conrad II brings Burgundy into the empire, when Henry III imposes his candidate on the throne of St. Peter, when Henry IV stands barefoot in the snow at Canossa. Every time Jonas thinks, "Here, I'm finally going to see a center take shape." But with each attempt, the center slips away in the very act of forming. Henry III dominates the papacy, deposes popes, appoints others, but his power depends on a fragile alignment of German princes. Henry IV crosses the Alps, installs an anti-pope, has himself crowned in Rome, yet his authority at home fractures at the exact moment when he seems to reach the summit. The Concordat of Worms lays out a clear compromise on the investiture of bishops, and this compromise chiefly confirms one thing: the emperor must share, negotiate, renounce direct control. Nothing stabilizes. Jonas feels his block setting in when he reaches the political core of his problem, the way the empire protects itself from itself. Not through grand abstract principles, but through a legal detail that starts to contaminate everything. The Golden Bull of 1356 appears on his screen as a diagram. 7 electors, 7 votes, a fixed place of election, a locked procedure. On the surface, it's a clarification. In practice, Jonas understands that this clarification creates a wall. To be emperor, you need the agreement of princes who stand to gain from keeping the throne weak, rotating, negotiable. The text also confirms their regalian rights over their own lands. Coinage, high justice, mines, tolls. Translating all this into layered maps, Jonas sees something appear that is not a poorly centralized state. It's a machine in which the top structurally depends on those who have an interest in limiting it. The map seems to refuse being filled in. This wall cannot be reduced to a fear of the papacy, or to French external pressure, or to invasions. It is inscribed in the very functioning of the empire, and it grows stronger each time imperial power attempts a show of force. Frederick Barbarossa comes down into Italy, has his rights defined at Roncaglia, destroys Milan, imposes his anti-popes. Jonas draws the final result in thicker lines. The Lombard communes retain liberties confirmed by the Peace of Constance. The papacy comes out alive. The German princes watch, learn, and strengthen their room for maneuver. Later, Frederick II builds in Sicily a highly centralized state, governed by detailed constitutions, while the German part of the empire fractures into leagues, dynastic rivalries, open resistance. When he dies, the imperial throne enters an interregnum in which several kings vie for the title without managing to impose an overarching authority. Jonas tries to map those years. The map looks like a puzzle with no reference image. He waits. The puzzle will not come together. The physical pain arrives on an ordinary evening, in front of the screen. Jonas zooms in on the left bank of the Rhine, between Strasbourg, Mainz, Trier. He counts the small entities, the free cities, the imperial abbeys, the interlocking princely territories. He wants to give each of them a distinct color. His hand tightens on the mouse, his thumb locks up, the pain shoots up his forearm. He shakes his hand, goes back to the map. Same effort, same cramp. It's not just muscle fatigue. It's the very concrete feeling that his gesture is trying to impose a continuous form on something that has been built over centuries to resist that gesture. Jonas then understands that he's not running up against a lack of data, nor against the complexity of the Middle Ages in general. He's running up against a political architecture that makes organized dispersion its mode of survival. The word survival echoes dry. When Jonas starts writing to specialists, the majority reply fits in one sentence. They agree that the Holy Empire is a composite whole, with shared sovereignty, that cannot be read as a modern state. A medievalist specifies that the real debate is not whether the empire was weak or strong, but how its strength lay precisely in its capacity to delegate, to disperse, to accept plurality as the norm. A legal historian confides that they often avoid, with the general public, following this logic all the way through, because it calls into question a comforting belief. The idea that every political organization naturally tends toward the nation-state form, with a clear center and sharp borders. The emails stay open, silent on the screen. Jonas returns to his screen with this phrase in mind: composite structure. Reflexively, he looks for a visual compromise. Maybe a main, neat map, and around it, insets for the exceptions. He tries it for 962, for 1356, for 1648. Each time, the insets multiply until they devour the central map. The exceptions are not accidents. They are the normal functioning of the empire. What collapses then is not only his mission as a cartographer, it was a more intimate certainty, one he had never really put into words. He believed that every great political entity had to tend toward a center, a capital, a spatial coherence. Even when people told him about federations, he always imagined a core. He thought that apparent disorder was only a transitional stage toward a clearer order. The Holy Roman Empire sends something else back to him. He follows its timeline. The election of Henry I, the use of Carolingian symbols by Otto I, the multiplication of bishoprics endowed with regalia, the rise of territorial duchies, the fixing of the electoral college with the golden bull, the proliferation of imperial cities, the eternal peace of 1495, the imperial circles, the Reformation, the confessional leagues, the 30 Years' War, Westphalia, the perpetual diet, the imperial courts, the secularization of 1803, the Confederation of the Rhine, the dissolution of 1806. At no point does the line point toward a single center. It splits, doubles, gets nibbled away, readjusts. The emperor retains prestige, judicial powers, a role as arbiter, but his hereditary possessions, Austria, Bohemia, Hungary for the Habsburgs, follow their own logic, distinct from the empire. The princes build modern territorial monarchies within an imperial framework that itself remains collegial, procedural, fragmented. Prussia obtains a royal crown outside the empire, yet continues to participate in its institutions. The same hand signs in the name of the king and in the name of the elector, depending on the context. Jonas realizes that what he is discovering is not simply a complicated empire. It is a system in which fragmentation is not a pathology, but a recurring choice, ratified by texts, wars, compromises. When the Reformation breaks out, when the Peace of Augsburg is concluded, when Westphalia is signed, each time the solution is not to reduce the number of actors, but to inscribe their plurality within common rules. Cuius regio, eius religio, does not unite, it organizes division. Westphalia does not rebuild a single block. It legalizes multiple sovereignties under an imperial roof that is weakened but still there. The common thread remains this held-together plurality. His initial mission, to produce a clear map, now seems almost indecent to him. He understands that what he was asked to do was to adapt a past that does not fit into our mental forms to a comfortable reading model. One center, borders, a single color. The Holy Roman Empire refuses, not because it is confused, poorly conceived, or archaic, but because it rests on another obvious fact. Power can be real, lasting, and structuring without coinciding with a homogeneous surface. Jonas gives up on the single map. He offers his boss something else, a series of views, each centered on a different function. One for the constituent kingdoms, one for the prince-electors, one for the free cities, one for the imperial circles, one for the confessions after 1648. He no longer tries to merge everything. His presentation to the team is cool, almost clinical. He explains that in this case, the word empire has referred to an organism whose logic is not ours. The reaction is predictable. He is asked for a simplified version for the general public. Jonas hesitates, then refuses. He prefers to keep his fragmented maps rather than manufacture a fake block. What he believed, that a political structure can always be summed up in a single stable form, no longer holds. In its place, he discovers something less reassuring. Some realities cannot be simplified without lying, and the Holy Roman Empire seems to have been built, layer by layer, to maintain this resistance. In front of his screen, the question that remains is brutal, almost unpleasant. If we are incapable of accepting that an empire can function this way, is it the Middle Ages that are complicated, or has our need for clear borders become a weakness? In the blue light of the screen, Jonas's maps remain open, motionless. The colors do not form blocks, but islands that barely touch. A cursor blinks on a file named Version Simplifiée Finale v3, left empty. Outside, in the distance, a train crosses the city, tracing a continuous line that the map does not show. The computer's fan blows softly, as if to hold in place a geography that refuses to be closed.